Hello and welcome to another webinar from Parallel Edge. It's been a long time, Sandra, hasn't it?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous. It's been a while since we've done this.
Not gonna lie, we're both a bit nervous because it's been a little bit of time. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about Teams, online collaboration. I mean, everybody's been kind of thrust into this, and Sandra, how long has it been since we stopped using Skype? I mean, we've been using Teams for a while, haven't we?
Yeah, we've been using Teams for over 2 years now.
Okay.
And we tested it when it first came out, but it was a little wonky. But once they announced that Skype was being removed, we decided to embrace Teams, and it's been a good product for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the one thing that kind of separates us too is, I mean, this is our office. I mean, we're not doing this because of quarantine. We never have had an office where we go in and just, saddle up to the water cooler and be like, "Hey, how was your day?" This is our office. We've been virtual from the start. I mean, before this, it was like Groove, and then we started using Skype. Was it
Skype,
right after
yeah,
that?
Skype. Yeah, we went from Groove to Skype and then
And
Teams.
Skype to this, and it's been a trip. But there's a lot of capabilities that are the easy things to get into Teams. The chat functions and some of the easier functions, and then we'll kind of try to get into some of the more maybe some middle, maybe some advanced stuff. I don't want to go too deep into this. It really depends because I don't know who is on the call. We got about 57 people right now, but that target audience, it could be just people who haven't used Teams before or any kind of online collaboration, all the way up to people that have been using Teams so far. So I
Right.
think one of our first polls that we can put out there is basically this: what are you using for online collaboration? I mean, this quarantine is hit, and I'm sure that everybody has kind of switched gears when it comes to using online collaboration, trying to get meetings in. Is it that you're just using phone calls, or are you using something like Zoom or GoToMeeting or any of those other collaboration platforms that are out there? So, just as a quick poll, are you already using Teams possibly? Or is it Zoom or any of those other ones? So let us know. We'll try to get that together, and then we'll get into basically the things we're going to be talking about for Teams today.
Yeah, it looks like we're still getting responses, but it looks like about 55% of everyone on the call is using Teams. Zoom is next, GoToMeeting is third, and Dropbox is being used by a few as well. I also
Okay.
wanted to mention, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And at the end of this webinar, we'll try to answer all your questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely put that in there. And I think Sandra and I were just talking about this too. If there's a lot of questions, like I'll try to answer as much as I can, but Teams is one of those developing platforms that's changing as we speak. And I'll even go over some of those things that have changed either within the last week or that are going to be changing within a week or two from now. But if we get enough questions and there's not enough time, we might even put together another follow-up seminar to kind of go over some of those things in more detail, because I want to make sure to keep this to an hour, respect everybody's time, but I also want to make sure we answer all those questions. So basically today, we'll just go over Teams a little bit, some of the earlier functions or some of the less intense functions of Teams. But for those of you out there who don't know who we are, Parallel Edge, we're an outsourced IT company consulting primarily in the AEC industry. We don't only do AEC, but that's kind of the main crux of what we're doing. Kind of the thing that sets us apart, besides being focused on the AEC industry, is that we don't have any contracts. So we're not going to come in, we're not going to rip and replace all your computers and just dictate that you have to use this antivirus or rip out these servers and you have to use this one. And the other good part, especially now, I mean, Sandra, with the quarantine, and business going up or down for some people, I think that one of the capabilities that kind of sets us apart is without the contracts, is being able to scale us up and down. Isn't that true?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen a lot of clients that have scaled back a little bit during the quarantine, and thankfully it's starting to climb back up a little bit, which is great. But yeah, we don't put you into any kind of contract.
Yeah, and that kind of hurts too, especially now when you're in a 2-year contract and you have to pay that monthly fee or yearly fee, and you're under the gun to do those types of things. With us, it's just a simple phone call. We also do transparent billing. We don't bundle anything together, and we do have former architects on staff. So those are kind of some of the quick things that sets us apart. I'm sure that the some of our clients out there are saying, no, 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 there's so much more about you guys that we'd like to talk about. But really, I just want to jump into the whole Teams function. Um,
Okay.
so Teams in and of itself, there's many ways to describe what Teams is all about. And the way I kind of say it is if you were, pre-Teams, before Teams came out, there was Skype, and then there was also Slack. Slack was one of those online platforms. So Skype was basically real-time chat. You could do video chat functions in that one. And it was just low-key stuff. You could just do random, little things here and there. We used it for our online collaboration platform just to kind of keep tabs on who's in the office and what we're working on right now. Slack was more like Facebook based. You would post something in there. Somebody can post a file to this. Maybe you could have like a project. Everybody that's on the project is in that one project, leaflet here. So this was project A. Everybody's on project A is in here. You can post stuff to this. People could reply to that, but it wasn't as quick as something like a chat function. So Teams is basically that mushed together with a couple of extra bells, beeps, and whistles. It is included so with your Office or Microsoft 365. I always get caught up with that because they recently
I
changed
know,
that.
I know. They just changed all the names.
I mean, for years for Office 365 to change all of a sudden to Microsoft 365. But anyway, if you have Office 365, you already have Teams. It might already be on your computer. It might be bothering you every time you log in to say, hey, set up Teams.
Yeah.
But everybody would already have that. It allows for chat and remote collaboration. It does integrate with OneDrive and SharePoint. I didn't put OneDrive up there, but I'll show you how those two things interact. You can do live events with up to, what is it now, 100 people, Sandra? I think it's
I
100.
don't recall. I don't remember. I know we
Yeah, so
looked
you
at
could
it
do
last week.
webinars, but we'll go over the pros and cons of doing live events through Teams. You can do video chat for conferences and stuff like that. It can integrate with your phone system if you have kind of like a VoIP's phone system. But you would have to go for a more expensive version of Microsoft or Office 365 in order to do that. Those are what, like 20, $25 for the per account?
Yeah, they're a little more expensive. Yes. It's
Yeah.
uh it's an add-on license.
And that the Teams platform, it's definitely a work in progress. I mean, I go into the change log weekly now, to see what's been going on. I mean, they recently changed within the past, I want to say 4 weeks. They changed it so just like Zoom, you can change your background. They're going to be integrating some other things, which I'll go over in a little bit, but it is changing almost daily, which is the norm for Microsoft. I mean, you just blink. When Office 365 comes out, a couple of years ago, or at least more than a couple of years ago, we would just wait. If something was broken one day, we would wait a couple days and it would completely change, or the name would change, and all of a sudden it's called Yammer and Stream and all these other things. So it is definitely a moving target. But today we're just going to go over some of the basic chat functionality, show you how the video chat works. We'll go over how the Teams message board looks different and acts different than the chat board. We'll show you how you can post or share files, um, the file storage in chat versus Teams. So that does work a lot differently, and the way that it works, it really will dictate how you're going to use Teams for what you're going to be working collaboratively in. We'll show you how you can work in the same file at the same time. We'll show you a little bit about the calendar and creating meetings, how live events works, adding applications, because there's just, oh my gosh, that list is getting longer every day about the other apps. And then we're going to go over like how we've been using it lately, and because we've been doing this for 2-3 years now, so not that we're the end all be all of how you should be using Teams, but we're just give you some pointers on how we've been doing it. So let's get into Teams itself, and hopefully all this will work correctly, because I've never really jumped out of our PowerPoint presentations and right into Teams, but hopefully this will work okay. So right now, Sandra and I are in a chat. You know, so you can also, let's see, we also have Jim in here. Jim recently left Parallel Edge, but we're wishing him well. But this is just a chat between Sandra, Jim, and I, and you can see in real time. I can chat up Sandra, be like, hey Sandra, I am in meeting now, and you can see when she types back, I can see that her little bubble pops up. She says, hey, she's typing right now, and she can say that, you know, she can see me. Now, some of the other functions down here kind of make the Teams a little bit more of a useful tool. So you can see how she called me out up here. What that would do would be to post something that's more in my face. So you can see when she chatted me back, I didn't have any kind of notification that pops up. But if she tags me in something like this, if I'm not watching what's going on, I did get a notification. You can't see it, that's on my lower screen, but I did get a notification, and then the notification says, Sandra mentioned you. So instead of just letting the pitches go by, maybe in a general chat session, this one is calling me out and saying, hey, Kevin, you need to look at this right now because Sandra is tagging you and it's popping up in my face to say, oh, Sandra's asking for me. I wonder what she's hitting me with. And the way you would do that, it would just do the simple @ function. I can choose her, and you can see how her name changes to a purple. And then I could say, oh, and the same thing pops up on her screen so that she gets that little blast. Now to these chats, you can also add little things like, hey, thumbs up. You can reply to it, like all those little emoticons that you can kind of throw in here. I also have the ability to delete what I had, edit, go back. I can save these messages for later. I can also share this message to Outlook. So maybe, you know, I want to send this to somebody else. They also have these little buttons down here that I can interact with. So maybe I wanted to format my message a little bit and be like, Sandra, this message is more important, if I could spell. And I still haven't spelled that correctly. Important, which is good. It has a spell check function. I can put this in bold, I can underline it, I can change the color and all that type of stuff, and then I can send it on its merry little way. There are things in here that I can do where I could attach a file. So if I wanted to upload a file or my OneDrive, I can throw it right in here and it shows up just like this. And then Sandra and I, you know, Sandra could kind of download this onto her computer. You can introduce like little emoticons that we added before, like, hey, hooray, I'm going to add the Mary Pop or the champagne, like, congratulations. There's GIFs you can attach in here. So you could like, you know, crazy. And I could say, hey, Donald, you know, it's been a crazy day today, and I can hit enter and she sees that on her side. So it makes it a little bit more fun, you know, so that you can go throughout the day and not just be looking at messages. So that's what these buttons down here are for. So with regard to the file functions, you know, that, or let's get into the video chat first. Sandra, can you drop out of, you know, we're going to try this again. I know we tried this a little earlier. I'm going to stop my camera. Yeah, I'm going to stop my camera and I'm going to jump over into a live video call. So now I'm doing video upon video. Hopefully we won't divide by 0. And I'm going to call Sandra now. So all I have to do is just hit that speaker button. And now I'm calling Sandra in Teams, and she just picked up, so she could probably see me. There she is. Hi. So you can see this is a live video function that we have right now. And just like Zoom, she could show us how she could kind of change her background. We're having some, let's see if that pops up in a second.
Yeah, try.
And we can, through this, we can also share our screens, so we can kind of do a remote collaboration thing. So she could be like, hey, Kevin, I'm seeing this really weird thing on my screen, which she does sometimes. Like, I just got this pop-up for Microsoft 365. What this all about? So she'll share her screen and be like, oh yeah, that's new. Forget about that. You know, log in, log out, and you'll be able to see it. So now Sandra's at the beach. You can see that it kind of blurred out whatever's behind her. She's in a place, oh, you're in the middle of the water. I hope you can tread water. She's on the subway, holy mackerel. So it kind of blurs out her background, just like you would see in Zoom or something like that. So you're not seeing all that personal stuff behind me, like my kids' pictures or R2D2. And you can design your background. You can upload pictures now. They just put that function in, I want to say within the past week or so. One of the things about the functions of Teams, though, is that you can only kind of have 9 video screens up at the same time. So if you had 10 people in your video function, you would only be able to see 9 heads at the same time. So that's one of the drawbacks. With something like Zoom, you can have up to like 50. You know, there's different things, different platforms have different amounts of collaboration techniques. But you know, one of the other things, we're hopping back over here. One of the other things that the Teams function has that's coming out very soon is noise suppression. So if your kids are playing in the background, or you got dogs barking or anything like that, eventually that's going to be able to block that type of stuff out. And I want to say, when I looked at it, they said they're going to be rolling that out within a week or two. So if you haven't had it already, you're going to be having that coming soon, which is going to be nice, because I definitely have a dog right now and I don't want her barking. So let's see. So we talked about the video chat. So the team difference, the difference between the chat and the Teams function, the Teams, and there's no real verb for this. We used to Skype each other, but there's no real verb that we have for this. I'm going to Teams you. But in Teams, you know, this is more the Slack portion that I was talking about, where you would set up a team, and maybe it's project based, maybe it's you know, maybe it's group based. You know, you can just kind of do this as you see fit. So we have one for our remote operations teams. We have our teams that's just working on Azure. We have a security development team. So all these teams have people that are attached to it. And for each one of these, it creates a SharePoint site as well as a group within Outlook and your teams, your Outlook over functionality, your contacts. So for instance, if I were to go into Outlook right now, excuse me, and I wanted to email everybody on the Azure platform, all I would have to do is go into my Outlook. I'm going to bring up an email here. I'll shift it to the upper screen so you can see it. And if I type in Azure, I can type Azure and I can email everybody on the Azure team now. And that will just email right out. It's not going to hit Teams. It's basically just going to email everybody on the Azure team. So the team actually gets created as an object within contacts of the online function of Microsoft or Office 365. I know that was a lot to say, but automatically when you create a team, you'll have a group that's created so you can interact with that group online. Okay. The other thing, as I said before, it's going to create that SharePoint section as well, which we'll get to in a second. But if I go back into this general capability in posts, you can see now how this is more like Facebook posts or Slack posts. So basically, I can come in here and say, Sandra wanted to say, that meeting was canceled. So it's posted. And now you can see, instead of her just posting something back, she can hit reply down here and it'll reply to that and it'll show up as an activity feed up here. So whereas chat is more lively, it's more like you're in there, you're texting somebody, whereas the posts, they're more slow. It's kind of like something that everybody on the team might see that's attributed to that one team or group. So that's kind of the difference there. You still have the emoticons and all that type of stuff, but it's a little slower paced and it's more of keeping track of what's going on with the entire team instead of just chatting somebody up. Some of the other differences with the Teams versus the chat functionality is the file sharing. So if I come back over here to the chat function, and now I'm back in this, and you can see earlier I posted this chat Word document. And basically all I did is come in here to this little paper clip. I clicked on it. I'm going to say upload from my computer. I simply just selected this and clicked open, and it uploads it to the chat. So then Sandra can see that on her side, and then she could come in here and say, all right, I want to download this file, or I want to open this up. Some of the other things that you can do within the chat function is it's this posting. So once you've uploaded this file, it gets posted in the file section for that chat. So you can see if I go into files here, everything that's posted within this chat ends up here. So if Sandra didn't happen to see that post, she would be able to go in here and say, oh, Kevin uploaded this, I can download this and work on it. The other function of this is being able to work on this in real time. Now, I don't like doing this within the chat function. I like this more within the Teams function, but I can show you in Teams, but you just know that you can do it in the chat function as well. So I'm going to hop back over to Teams just to show you that. So right now I'm in Teams. That file was, we can go into the files, and I already uploaded a couple files here. Now I wanted to show you where these files are posted on your computer. So if I wanted to go and look at the chat session things here, whoop, I lost it. Got too many things open. I'm gonna go into my OneDrive, and here, I'm gonna, whoop, here it goes again. I got way too many things open, Sandra. There we go.
I know the feeling.
So here's my OneDrive, and automatically created for me is this Microsoft Teams chat files. So everything that's posted in that chat session is automatically uploaded to this file. And if I go in here, you can see that Word document that I uploaded here is in here, as well as everything from all the other chats that I've been a part of. So it's kind of a mishmash of everything, but that same folder exists on everybody that's in chat. So if Sandra's in the remote chat and I'm in the remote chat and Matt Conlon from Boston's in the remote chat, they can see this folder in their OneDrive automatically without having to do a thing, okay? But again, it's kind of a mishmash, okay? Everybody that's uploaded anything here is in that one folder. But if I go into the Teams function, this is why I like this over here a little bit more, because it keeps it more organized. And if you're gonna be posting files, this is probably the place to do it. So I'm part of this test group. I go into the general thing. I posted this file. In SharePoint, it's created this automatically for us. In fact, I can even open it right from here. Anything that's been posted in here is going to automatically be posted in the SharePoint site automatically. But the one thing that you need to do in order to bring it to your computer is click this sync button. So if I click sync right now, it's going to interface with my OneDrive and be like, hey, we're getting ready to sync. We're connecting this to your OneDrive, automatically connects to my OneDrive. And now, if I bring this back up here and I go to my Parallel Edge, so all of my SharePoint sites end up in this Parallel Edge folder, which is really cool because this capability wasn't there a couple of months ago or about a year ago. So this new functionality of OneDrive interfacing with this, you can see this. As soon as I click on sync under Parallel Edge, it automatically syncs that SharePoint site to my Parallel Edge folder. And then I can see everything that's been posted in there. And in fact, I can do the reverse now. I can just drag and drop a file in here and it'll be posted into Teams. So that two-way sync is really neat within the two. And you can see how it organizes it so much better. Yeah. Instead of just being a mishmash of all the files, it's just posted for that specific team.
Yeah, it makes it so much easier to find files.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's the different posting for the files, the difference between SharePoint and the chat function itself. Now, as far as the file storage in the chat versus Teams, I already showed you that, but you can also collaboratively work on these files. So if Sandra and I, let's say we're in a meeting today and we wanted to go into this Teams session in Excel, what I can do up here is say, hey, this document, not only you can download it, but it is pretty important, and I wanted to work on this with you. So I can come up here, I'm going to add a tab, and that's simply just by clicking this plus up here. Some of these tabs have already been added, which I'll show you in a little bit, but I'm going to add a new tab right now because Sandra and I are in this meeting. We want to work collaboratively on this document. So I'm going to click on Excel, and it's like, all right, you want to do this Excel document. I'm going to say this is for our meeting, and I'm going to simply just select the file that's already been posted. It's already in that repository. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to click save, and it's also going to post a little thing like, hey, Sandra, I just posted this. So now I get this new tab up here called For Our Meeting. Now that that's been up there, Sandra can now go in to that same thing, and you can see my cursor is here in green. But once she's in that same document, she'll pop in and she'll be able to, I'll be able to see where her cursor is, and we can collaboratively work on this document at the same time. So I can come in here to this thing and be like, this is, and there's Sandra's cursor. So in real time, you can see how she's filling stuff in. And this works in a number of different type file formats. So we could work collaboratively in a Word document. I again felt, I misspelled, it's not spelled. Yeah, I can't type today. But you can work on a Word document, you can work in PowerPoint. So if you want to collaborate in the same document, I mean, when we had what, 3 or 4 people in one document when we were in that one conference. So we can all collaborate on this document at the same time. And then once it's all finished, you can download that whole thing now that it's all finished, send it off to somebody else. So that kind of collaboration portion of Teams is really neat. As far as the other tabs go, you can see here when I click on this add a tab, I get a whole smattering, a list of different things I can add in here. The top ones are at the top ones here. Ones that I've used lately are some of the top ones that we can use. So here's like Adobe Creative Cloud. I can attach that. I can add a document library, a OneNote, so that we can work collaboratively in there. I can attach a PDF. Now, for those architects out there, I know one of the first things you're going to ask is, can I collaborate on a PDF? So if I throw a PDF in there, can we collaborate on this thing and be able to redline it and stuff like that? Unfortunately, no. Hopefully that Bluebeam or Adobe will be able to do something like that. But if I click on this PDF right now, it's simply just posting the PDF. I can't do anything else with it. So this is more like an FYI. I just posted this PDF. I can't do anything with it. I can't edit it. I can copy stuff out of it, but that's about it. So collaborative work on a PDF just isn't there yet. As far as, yet.
Right.
As far as Creative Cloud, anything that I put into my library, I can kind of post. So if I wanted to say, hey, I use this thing in my maybe this video that I'm showing, I can kind of collaborate on this and kind of just post it to my feed so that other people can see that I've been using it. And you can see in here, if I go back into my posts, you can see what that looks like right here. So I posted something, I posted this in here. I'm showing Sandra that I use this picture. She can open it in my browser or her browser. She can also just copy this post. So a little bit of collaboration with Creative Cloud in there. Some of the other things is I posted a shared calendar. So I created a shared calendar within SharePoint, and then I posted it in here, and I also made it a little bit colorful. It took a little bit of work to do this, but now that it's done, we can kind of collaborate on meetings and get more into who's doing what, when, and why. So there's a lot of capabilities here. It would take a lot of time for me to kind of go in and show you how I created this shared calendar. Again, if people are interested in it, I can always do a future session on this, but I just wanted to at least let you know that it's capable of doing this. One of the other things that's come out lately is something called Planner. Planner is almost there, and there's, this goes back to that work in progress I was talking about before, where it's just not absolutely ready for prime time yet. Planner is this. Let's say we're working collaboratively. It's a hard word for me to say, collaboratively on something, and I wanted to put a task up for, something like this, and I say, all right, make sure Tim, and I set a due date. I'm going to say by the 17th, and I can assign this, and I'm going to say that's assigned to Sandra, and I can add the task. So now I've added a task for Sandra. It's a task to say, make sure to email Tim. It's due by the 17th, and it's posted to Sandra. Now, she might have just gotten an update on her screen saying, hey, there's an activity, bing, there's a post for you, and that you have this activity that's been, or this planning thing that's been posted to you. But you can see right now, it's not on our main Teams thing, and she didn't get any type of notification in Outlook that she has a task. So if I went into Outlook right now, and I've already assigned myself a couple of things in here, so you can see, come on, you can see I assign myself these 2 things. That's not showing up as a task in Outlook. And in fact, it's not automatically showing up as a task in my calendar. It took a little bit of work in order to get that to just show up there. So if I post my calendar right now, let's see, and I'll show you this. So here's my calendar.
There's another really annoying thing about this, I think, is that
Yeah.
it looks like a checkbox, or, it looks like a box that you can click to
Right
open a
here.
task. And it really just checks it off and it disappears. The task
Mm.
disappears. And I've done that a couple of times by accident already
Yeah, you
too.
have to go down here.
Yeah.
So the calendar function, so I had to export the calendar as a separate file and then import it into my Outlook, and then it shows up as a different calendar, so then I have to do an overlay in order to see it on my regular thing so that it shows up at a different color. But even if I come down and go into my tasks, it's not going to show up there. The one thing I did get today is an email that said, hey, you got some upcoming tasks, but I don't get this every day. So this is one of those things that I can see where they're working the kinks out of it. They're kind of sanding it down and making it a little better. So I can see where a couple of weeks or months from now, this is going to be like, boom, it's going to be automatically in your calendar. It's going to show up as a task. It'll be as an app. It'll show you emails up daily, all those types of things. So, again, use that with the caveat that there might be a little work needed in order to get that to polish up. Okay. So going on with apps, like I said before, there are just a truckload of apps that you can add to this. And every one of them, you can see, I just scroll down and show you all the different things that we can add in here. If I go back into Teams here and I post this plus button, like all the different functions that you can add. So if I come in through here, see all these different apps that I can add in here. And they have some really cool things that they can do. They're embracing it. Others, it's just adding a website in Teams. So for instance, if I come in here and I go to, where was it? I think it was back in our chat. And I added this here. This is basically just a tab that puts up our website. So I could add in here, I can say plus, I can add website, and it's just simply bringing in a website to this. Some people might be like, oh, that's really cool because we could post an intranet site. You never know. I mean, this might be good for some people, not good for others. I tried this Discovery Education, I tried Powerby, I tried Stream. All of these things, some of them just post something and it's not really, it's like, okay, it's posted here, I could just go over here and use it. Others, they're more bot-based. And what do I mean by bot-based? Well, if I come over here to Creative Cloud, now I've attached Creative Cloud over here, and it says, what can I do? And I click on this, you can see each one of these is basically like a bot. So if I click sign in here, it's gonna automatically execute a sign-in function, send that to Adobe. It's going to reply back with what's your password. So it's doing a number of almost scripted steps for me, but it's not really adding a heck of a lot of functionality yet. So some of the things, might be like really cool and they're really embracing it. Other things, again, not ready for prime time. Your results might vary. You might go through and say, but Kevin, this is my God. I could sign into Adobe and this is the best thing since sliced bread. But your results might vary, and you can post those things over here. You can attach them. All those apps are down here. Attach them all at different places. But again, they're more bot-based or anything else. Sandra, which one did you use? You said you used some kind of a.
We used I tried Poly just to
Poly.
create a poll. The problem was that it doesn't really give you a document back. Like the answers only live in Teams, so you can't print them. You couldn't. There wasn't really anything I could do with them, so it wasn't really that, awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess what it comes down to is what's going to make you more what's going to make you more productive. Like if you're adding that thing, is it that you're just playing with something? Like we added this, what was it? Where is it? It was like a badge function, so you can give somebody a badge like you were really courageous today, and that's just not our MO here at Parallel Edge. But it brings up a good point, like Teams or Zoom or these types of things. Do you think that at least for us, I mean, this is the only way we function. But for
Right.
those of you out there, do you feel like this online functionality, these online meetings, do you feel that you're more productive on a video call or an online meeting or something like that? Or do you feel like, the function of being in front of somebody and seeing their body language and seeing their facial expressions, or really getting the vibes off of somebody, is it better in person, or do you feel that, the online function is just as good as being in front of somebody? And this was one of the interesting questions that
Mhm.
Sandra and I were just talking about. I want to say about 11:30, that, for us, it's just everyday stuff. But
Right.
for a lot of people, this is brand new to people. And I always wondered how others are feeling since the quarantine.
Right. I think things have changed a lot. I think people's
Absolutely.
opinion of teams and online collaboration and working remotely have changed a lot.
Yeah, and
So
in fact, that brings up a good point. Like, I just looked up a statistic from the Microsoft blog, and they said they've seen a 200% increase in meeting minutes from March 16th. So that's going from like 9 million meeting minutes to over 200 billion meeting minutes in Teams. So, Sandra, what does the poll say there?
so it looks like 62% said yes, they do feel that a video meeting is as productive as an in-person meeting.
Yeah, great.
38% said no. Yeah.
Great. Well, I'm more power to you. I mean, it's just as capable. I guess, there are shortcomings for, just being able to take a piece of paper and hand it to somebody else.
Yeah.
And I also wondered, it just popped through my mind. I also wonder if this is, if we did a second poll. You don't have to do it right now because I know we're mid-meeting, but if there would be a second poll to find out, generationally, if people feel, and I'm not saying old jokes because I know I'm not a spring kitten, if you were, but, a spring chicken. But if it was more generationally, I wonder if you're 35 plus, if you feel like, it's better in person, or if, 35 and younger, if you feel like maybe that's a poll we can do in the future. Just
Yeah.
possibility.
Yeah.
Um, but that also brings us to how, we're embracing this type of thing. Sandra, this is our everyday thing. Why don't you go over like how we use Teams, or even GoToMeeting as an everyday or every week application? What types of meetings do we do? How do we do them?
Yeah, so we do a daily tech huddle at 8:30 in the morning where everybody calls in and we say hello and what are you working on? What's in your way? It's a very quick meeting, just a check-in, kind of like you would in a regular office. Say hello to everybody, find out what everybody's working on, and then we do a weekly meeting on Fridays. It's an hour, sometimes an hour and a half long, and we go over more detailed issues that have come up over the week, or if somebody is struggling with something. I kind of give them a rundown of what's going on in the company and how busy we are. So those are the kind of things that we use team meetings for. And then we also have an ongoing chat in Teams, which is everybody in the company is in that chat. So we can there's a constant dialogue going on there, mostly with Robin and the technicians on what are you working on? Here's a ticket that needs to be worked on next. There's an emergency here, or Susan's calling and needs an answer right away. So, that we use that a lot. I mean, that's a daily thing, and everybody checks in there and we tag each other in there all the time. Um, so those are some of the things that we use Teams for.
Yeah, and it's also good. It's helped me more than I feel like Skype ever did, where I don't feel like I'm as alone, when I'm doing this type of stuff. Because, if I'm at a client and I'm stuck on something, I'll throw it in the remote chat, and I'll immediately have,
Right.
Mike or Doug or somebody else chiming in, being like, "Hey, did you try this? Did you try that?"
Yeah.
So, some places, even though, it looks like we're just sweating and working on something on our computer, we're actually interacting with all 13 people of Parallel Edge at once, trying to get this
Right.
problem solved.
Right.
So it's great to have that team at your fingertips.
And
And
don't
that's,
forget the video calls as well. I mean, instead of, just chatting back and forth, sometimes, I'll call Kevin and say, hey, look, this just popped onto my machine and I can share my screen really quick. And It's very helpful, and it makes everything feel a little more like it's a real office.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's been a lifesaver for us. And like I said, now that it's connected with the sharing the files and having to separate out the different things in SharePoint. I mean, even when we broke out into these little groups, I feel like I have so much more oversight of what those individual teams are doing. I can pop in there at a moment's notice and find out how this team is doing, what they're working on, look at the minutes, maybe and just pick right up where I left off. So it's a great collaboration tool.
Join a meeting right from the calendar too.
Yep.
So that's
Yeah.
helpful.
So that's some of the initial things. I mean, again, I didn't want to get too deep in the water because some people here, they might just be starting out with Teams. Other people have been using some of the more advanced capabilities. Like I said, if some of the questions get to some of the more of the advanced capabilities, we can definitely follow up, do a follow-up seminar, maybe into some of the advanced stuff. But I guess one of the other things we wanted to find out personally from Parallel Edge is when people are starting to get back to it, and as far as, some of our clients are saying, within a week or so, we're going to kind of get back to the office. Some people are going to stay at home. Some people are going back to the office. Other people are saying like September, October. So just overall, like, even if you're not a Parallel Edge client, what are your thoughts? Like, are you going what month, or what are you going to get back to the task at hand and get back to the office, or maybe at all? Maybe this will be a hybrid thing from you now on.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's one of the reasons that we're driving the Azure and cloud server development, because if we keep in this hybrid atmosphere, or we eventually go to where we need more cloud-based servers, we want to be able to develop those servers and those workstations with certain people in mind, certain architects in mind, because those are heavy-duty machines. And to just push that into the cloud, it takes a lot of capability in order to do that. And you can't just snap your fingers and automatically move these heavy-duty workstations that are doing this Revit or Rhino or any of those other capabilities, just to the cloud, and be able to do the same thing there. So we're developing that. We're working with Microsoft. We're working with our partners to kind of develop what that looks like, so that we can be prepared for that. So Sandra, what do you got from the poll?
Well, 54% of the people that we polled are not sure yet. 29% are going back to the office within a week, and 18% within a month. But that's a large number. That's more than half of the people that answered the poll that are not sure yet when they're going back to work. So that's an
Very interesting.
Yeah.
All right, well, what I'd like to do now is, if we have some time, got about 15 minutes, and I wanted to leave enough time just in case, because we do have a large audience today, to leave enough time for questions. I'll do what I can. I'm not an advanced or overly advanced genius when it comes to these things. So if I don't have the answer, I'll put a pin in it. We'll be able to get back to you and tell you what you're looking for. If I can answer your question later, if I can show you now, I'll definitely show you now how to do what we're doing. And like I said, if we get a smattering of things that are really good things that I just can't get into today because of time, we might be able to do a follow-up seminar in the future, for you. Also, just to plug that, if maybe you're one of 50 people from your organization that's attended this session, and you're like, wow, this is really great. I wish my entire team was all about this and had these capabilities and could even go into some more of the advanced capabilities. It would be great if Parallel Edge can come to our office or do a webinar specifically for us. I'd be more than happy to do something like that. Just give us a call. We could do a webinar online. We could do a seminar in person, specifically geared toward what you're trying to do in your office. So, Sandra, does anybody have? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I have a lot of questions here, actually.
Great.
So somebody did mention that they're using GoToMeetings because they want to see more than 4 people at a time, and I think you brought that up earlier.
Yeah, they within the end of April, they were adding the functionality to do 9 faces at once. So if you don't have that yet, it's probably coming out. They kind of slowly roll out updates, over like a month or 2 months, something like that. So if you don't have 9 faces now, You'll eventually get it. I want to say even our functionality right now is only 4.
Right.
So eventually that'll get up to 9. I know with GoToMeeting and Zoom, I looked it up earlier, there was like, what was it, 40 faces or something like that. They do have more faces that you can post at the same time in GoToMeeting and Zoom. But like I said, this is a moving target. Like with the noise filtering is coming out within a week or so, and I wouldn't be surprised that Microsoft doesn't roll out, more and more faces as we go. Sandra, speaking of faces, that brings up a good point. What person joined our GoToMeeting a week or so ago? That was kind of fun.
Yeah, that was Heartland Farms. So it's an animal rescue, and you can donate a small amount of money, and they will pop into your meeting. You just give them your meeting information, they'll pop in. And we had a goat show up about 2 weeks ago, and that was really fun. And they kind of showed us around the farm, and it was a dreary day here, so it was kind of fun to see the outdoors and see all the different animals. They had llamas and alpaca, but now I can't talk. Alpacas, yeah.
It's catching.
That was really fun. I have another question. Drew said he could not vote. I'm sorry, Drew. Patty Weicker said they just started using Teams. How do you change your background? Grant is asking. Hi, Grant.
Sure. Well, I'm going to hop over. I'm going to stop sharing my screen again. I'm going to share this one. So if I come in, I'm going to start. Can you hop out of the video again, yep, Sandra, and I'll hop into the other thing, yes, and show them?
Yep.
All right, so I'll hop back over here and I will jump into a video call with Sandra. Calling Sandra. Okay.
Hello.
All right, so what you can do now, if I come down here to these 3 dots, and you can see all the capabilities that I have within this session. So I can turn my camera on and off, turn my microphone on and off. I can share my screen, so we can do online collaboration again. They also have the raise your hand function, which has been a recent development. So that way, if you have 9 people on the screen at the same time, you don't have to do this to talk like grade school. You can just raise your hand in here. But what you're talking about is under this more actions. And you have a couple of different settings in here. Here's your device settings for your camera, your microphone. Actually, that brings up a good point, but let me go over what Drew asked, or Patty. So here is the show background effect. So if I click on this, now I have a couple of different choices. So these are the ones that are kind of built in. So I can choose like a blurred background. I can choose a school. Here's some more fun things. I can be on like an alien planet. Here's Minecraft. All these types of things. I even added one, the Brady Bunch. So, but if I just simply select this and then hit apply, actually I could preview it first. So here's me as my preview. So you can see my background is all blurred. You can't see R2 anymore. You can't see all my kids' pictures behind me. And I'm on a street, it looks like in France in the 1800s. And then I can apply it and turn on my video, or I can go ahead and pick something else. I can preview that one. So now I'm in space and apply and turn on my video. So that's how that would work. Other things in here, I can kind of, let me turn that off. I can turn off, I can record this. So if we wanted to record this for later on, I can turn on live captions. Now, the one thing about live captions that I thought was kind of neat is if you're doing one of those live events. Oh, I didn't go over that, the calendar and the live events. Sandra, geez, holy mackerel, I'm going out of order. Cart before the horse here. Let me talk about that when I move over there. But anyway, anything else that you can do in here, they're all live here. So turn on live captions, show my keypad, start a recording, end the meeting, and all of that type of stuff. That's all within this. Sandra, let's hop back over to the GoToMeeting because there's one section I forgot about.
Yeah.
All right. So hopefully you guys can see my screen again. I'm gonna, the one section I forgot to go over is the calendar function. So it does integrate your calendar within Teams. So if I come in here to my calendar, you can see how crazy my calendar is this week. I can click on calendar and it's gonna bring up my Outlook calendar for what I have throughout the week. So anything that's on my Outlook calendar is in here. And I can generate a Teams meeting from one or two places. I can generate it right within Teams. So if I hit new meeting right now, I can add a title to it. So new meeting, who's required to attend. So I can say Sandra. When it is, what channel. So I can post this to a channel. So for instance, I can post this to the test group. So now this is going to be posted to that chat in case other people want to come into it, so on and so forth.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
I think Susan asked this. Can you invite external contacts to join a team or invite them to a meeting?
You can. It's on the back end. And you need to be careful with some of this stuff. So what we've done is we've closed off outside institutions to this because you have to watch some of the file sharing capabilities that you have. So if you're like a doctor's office or something like that, and you're posting stuff into your chat, and now you're inviting somebody from the outside in, they might be able to see some of that stuff. So long story short is it's capable. You can invite outside people in just like Skype. But the easiest thing to do would be to just share it within internal people. I know that if you're doing it with Carmen, for instance, he's got an email address from Paratech. So he's got a Paratech email address and he has a Parallel Edge email address. When he jumps over to the Paratech teams, it completely shuts off the one teams and opens it up in the other teams.
Right.
And he can't see any of the chat functionality that's happening there. So the other thing is, I was looking this up earlier, like I could come in here to the chat functionality, and some people have asked, well, where's all my Outlook contacts? Because I want to be able to bring them in. Teams right now will only bring in your internal contacts. So I can only bring up my Parallel Edge contacts or groups within Parallel Edge. I can't bring in anybody outside from that. So it is capable to chat with them, but again, you have to open it up. You want to watch that functionality. You also want to watch who can do what. And this is like another question that you might want to go over with, your tech person, with us, with whoever's controlling teams. If you don't have any tech people on staff, you want to talk it over with your global admin, because anybody that can create a team is automatically creating SharePoint sites and groups. So you can see how that might be the tail wagging the dog, where somebody's like, oh yeah, I'll put up a group, I'll put up a group, put up a group, put up a group. And all of a sudden the Teams admin is like, where all these groups and SharePoint, sites come from? Well, you're giving anybody the access to go ahead and create a team. So there are permissions that you can do on the secondary side, from the technical side, that you can say, all right, Jim and Joe, they can create teams, but nobody else can do that. So there's like a whole aspect of the back end of this that you should probably talk to us about, or your global admin or your tech person, to talk about who should have access to what, why, and when.
Okay.
And then the live functionality. Sorry, one other quick thing, and then we'll get back to
the live thing. Yeah, that's good to bring that up.
So you can do a live meeting, and what live meeting is more like what we're doing right now. It is a webinar, but as we found out, there's a heck of a lot that's under the hood when it comes to this. So a live functionality in Teams right now, it's almost like being a news director. So I would have Sandra's screen here, I would have Jimmy's screen here, I would have my screen here, and it takes a lot of functionality to be able to understand, like setting up a shot and doing this, that, and the other thing. And within Teams, it's kind of there again. It's being developed, but it's not there right now. So we could post Sandra's screen, but then you would only see her face. You can't see like the group's face. So if we wanted to do like a panel discussion, you would only see one person at a time. What they give you the ability to do with live events is do a third party, and it basically gives it a portal to say, I want to force my third party application through Teams to be able to push out this live session to everybody that's in this webinar. That being said, wow, that's like drinking from the fire hose. Yeah. I mean, I felt like a news director at one point, where I'm setting up a shot and I got this is here, and Sandra's face and your face, and background looks like this, and camera 1, camera 2, camera 3 cut, and like I was just completely overwhelmed with it, and it was just a rabbit hole I didn't want to go down. But that's also there as well, so you can post live events. I'm sorry, Sandra. So let's by not digressing, go for it.
So can we use, this is from Drew,
Mhm.
can we use SharePoint to transfer files to consultants and clients?
Again, you can, but again, you need to work with your SharePoint admin. I believe it would be Doug, to open up that capability. And again, Pandora's box. What are you sharing? Who has access to it? What are the permissions? And once you open up that Pandora's box, you want to make sure that you're keeping a close eye on those things, because if you're sharing something that certain people should have access to, it is capable. Again, work with your SharePoint admin, work with your technician, work with your global admin if you don't have somebody, to find out those whys and wherefores of that.
All right, and then Troy said, can you back up a second and discuss channels? We get confused as to how to organize around channels. Great question.
So that's more the Teams thing, the Teams channel. So each one of these things it could be considered a channel. And again, so it really depends on your organization. So if you're like an architect per se, you could have, project 1, project 2, project 3, project 4, or the PNC building, or the new Acme on 4th Street, like any of those things, and then you could be sharing stuff about that project. And in fact, I showed this here, and I don't think I talked about this. You can even email the group. So this email here, I can open this up, and there's an email that I have maybe based on this project that I can open up here and see. So this was an email that I emailed myself earlier. And what I did is I got that email address from here. If I go up here in these little 3 dots, I can click on this. I can say get email address, and then I can email myself into this group. So as like an architect, if you're trying to identify this channel, this project has these emails attached to it, and these files, and all these talk about this group, and hey, I'm meeting with Phil today, and all of that stuff with under that heading. You could do it almost like a project base that you would have within your organization. So maybe you have an HR group, you have a technical group, you have a structural group, an MEP group, and then under that you could have different subheadings. So this Parallel Edge team up here, we kind of did that same thing where you have a general chat, 2020 boot camp. This one's just for Sandra and me, standards and SOPs, training. So it's almost like you want to kind of whiteboard it first and say, well, maybe we can organize it this way. We can organize it this way. We can organize it that way. Whatever your organization would say the best way to do it. Oh, Sandra, I can't hear you.
I know, I'm sorry.
There
If
you
you
go.
have more questions about that, Troy, we'd be happy to go over that with you
Yeah, absolutely.
in detail. Susan said, if you attach a file to a team channel, is it then saved in 2 places, in Teams and on the network? Or is the Teams posted file just pointing to a file on the network? If 2 team members work together live to update a posted file, does the file need to be saved back to the network so we can have to save the changes?
I see where you're going with that. So one of the fears is that, all right, I'm Jim, and me, Jim, and Sandra are working on this project, and I'm creating this Word document, and I throw it up in Teams, and the 3 of us are working on it, and somebody deletes it by accident, or somebody else needs access to it and there's not necessarily on that team. Where is that file? Where does it live? Where is it backed up? And how do we get to it? And that's very interesting because it is separate. So for instance, what I said before, if I post that file, these files here, once I post them here, I still have them, like maybe like I copied that from my desktop and I post that in Teams. Sandra and I now work on that Excel spreadsheet. This only exists in that SharePoint site and is posted in this Teams site. So it's now separate from the file that's on my computer and only exists in SharePoint. And if anybody else needs access to that, they would need access to that team, or they would need to, have access to that SharePoint site. Again, security based. Can it be backed up? Absolutely, because your SharePoint could be backed up through, like we use Skykick. So Skykick goes in there, sees it in SharePoint, will back it up. So if you're in Skykick or any of the other Office 365 backups, they're backing up those files. But it doesn't exist on the server because it's been uploaded from my computer, posted in SharePoint, and it no longer exists on a server somewhere. So that is one of the things that you should be wary about.
Yeah, right along that the same vein, do files save in Teams indefinitely, or will they disappear after a certain amount of time? Also, assume any files worked on in Teams then need to be manually saved up to the server if your firm has project folders on a certain server.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
would definitely move stuff and just use this as a project collaboration site, but you would definitely want to move those files down to your server in some way. Now you can kind of get creative with it, maybe with your technician to kind of do a sync, a creative sync behind the scenes to maybe it syncs those files to the server. As far as how long they stay in this, in fact, Sandra and I were just talking about this the other day because it's one of those things that come up because maybe you only want 3 years worth of texts in here or chats or 1 year or a couple of months or whatever it is, and then they should expire. Again, this is another thing where that back end piece, it has those capabilities to fail off those things after a certain point of time. So after 6 months, after a year, I don't want to be able to go into the history. I mean, our history goes back probably since we've been starting to use this. But it does take up a lot of room sometimes, if you're caching all that stuff locally.
yeah.
So you do want to kind of fail those things off. If the app functionality of how long that fails off, that is yet to be seen. So for instance, like in here, and I don't think I talked about this earlier, but I made a link in this general session to my Dropbox site. So you can see in here, I can add cloud storage here and it has access to my Dropbox, Box, share file. I can make those links. But again, how far back do these things go and all of that type of stuff, yet to be seen at this point. So it'd be interesting to see that.
Right. Gemma made a comment here that meetings can be as productive, but more difficult to build connection and culture, which I think it's kind of true. The thing that we've been doing, we've been playing games on our Friday meetings. We take about an hour and not everybody has to stay if they don't want to, but most of the time everybody stays and we play Family Feud, and we have 2 teams and it's fun and it everybody kind of enjoys it. So we try to kind of break our meetings up that way and build our culture a little bit.
Yeah.
So let's see, Ryan left, but he asked, are you able to attach files to a task in Planner?
That's a good question. Let's see. So if I go into
I don't
Project
know the
Planner,
answer to that either.
so if I attach I don't see of a way to do that. So there's test calendar, label assign, copy task, couple link to task, move task, delete. I don't see of a way to attach a file to that. But once it's posted, you could post it to the board, I think. Let's see.
Okay.
Copy task. You could copy the task. Let's try it out. So if I copy the task and I want to copy it to, no, I can't even see that.
No.
So that would be interesting. Oh, look, attachments include attachments. So that's something for me to work on. That's maybe I can get back to you on that one to see how that function works out. I don't see it right offhand, but it's probably just a checkbox. Oh, here it is. So right within, once I created the task, then you can go in and edit the task. That's right. And you have more functionality within here. So I can add an attachment within this. So create the task, save the task, go back into the task, edit the task, and then post the attachment. Okay. So we answered that. Okay. So it's right at 1 o'clock. I do want to answer more questions, but I want to be, concerned about everybody's time here. So Sandra, there are a couple more questions that we can answer, or you?
There are a couple more questions. We can keep going, and for anybody that needs to drop off, we will be recording this, or we are recording this, and we will be posting it on our YouTube channel. You can find a link on our website right to the channel, and I'll have it up there later this afternoon. So let's see, Susanna from Veridian said she had some trouble starting a shared screen meeting with someone outside of the office. Can you go over that process again?
Sure. Like I said, outside the office is going to be tough for me to demonstrate because ours is locked down that we can only do it internally. But if we wanted to do something, let's see, I'm going to go back into chat.
I guess you could invite Susanna to a meeting and we can do it that way.
I'm just going to share I'm going to doubly share one of my desktops here. So I'm going to share this one here. So now I'm sharing my screen with Sandra, and you can see the share screen started, and she should be able to see where my mouse is. You can see this red outline here, so it's showing only what's in the red outline, and anything that's on that screen she should be able to see right now.
Right.
So I can also give her, I think I can give her access to move my mouse around and whatnot, but that's basically it. That's the how you would share your screen. I can kill off the share right here, but that's basically it. Now, as far as sharing it outside the organization, I'd have to get back to you on that one just because I can't demonstrate that here. You know, as far as going outside the organization.
Yeah, Dinah from Viridian asked the same question. I think it sounds like they're having some issues with that. And if you guys want to reach out to us, we'll be happy to go over that with you. Dinah also said it would be helpful to have updates on apps that provide great functionality. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we could blog post about, or maybe even put a newsletter article out, maybe, you know, once every other month or something like that. Be like, hey, I tried this app. This is really cool. You can use it this way. Almost like an ongoing thing. I think that would be kind of neat.
So Dinah also asked, could you have done this meeting on Teams? So
I could have, but the whole thing is I wanted to be able to show Teams within Teams, and that was going to divide by 0 and the universe would end. So in order to do that the right way for you guys to see everything that was on the screen, we needed to do that in GoToMeeting.
right.
But this also goes back to the live meeting where Sandra wouldn't be able to be as effervescent as she usually is in these sessions, because her main job would be looking at camera 1, camera 2, shifting to this, go to this, and you know, you really need a director when it comes to these things to be able to direct what's being shown on the screen at the same time. So it can happen, it could have happened, but you know, we wanted to do that with a platform we were used to and to be able to show what we wanted to show.
Grant wanted to know if you can make phone calls outside of your domain using Teams.
You can, outside of your domain.
You can, I think, if you upgrade to that more expensive license.
Yeah, I guess what he might be asking is if, let's say, we shared our domain outside. So what Sandra said is true. So if you had the upgraded platform, and you upgraded to the one where you had a phone call attached to it, so you would be able to dial into a number or dial into a meeting with an actual phone. So I could use my phone, dial into a meeting, I could be on the phone and be in that meeting. Yes, that could actually happen. As far as dialing into a different domain that you're sharing your SharePoint or your OneDrive or your team stuff with, that one I'd have to check out again, because again, we're not using it with that capability. It's just not something I've used yet. And it wasn't something I was prepared to show today. So I could get back to you on that one as well, Grant.
Okay. I think maybe we need a Teams section in our newsletter.
Quite possibly.
Yeah. So Dan McCauley asked if we have any particular apps that we recommend. He doesn't want to take the time to open and try them all. I feel your pain, Dan.
I mean, right now, I do like the ones that are built in, and they're the ones that work the best right now. So if I go back in here to Teams, you know, the ones that I have already up here are the ones that I kind of like already, which is, you know, your regular posts. You know, you have your planner, even though it's not ready for prime time, with, you know, assigning people things in their tasks view or their calendar. Having this in there and being able to say, you know, these 4 people are working on this and these 2 people are working on that. The planner section is kind of cool. My library, again, not something I fell over head over heels with. The shared calendar is kind of nice, but it's basically just posting a website, so that needs a little bit of work. The wiki, it comes with all of them, but it's basically just like a Wikipedia site, so you can kind of maybe post your, you know, your HR things in there, or maybe a to-do list or something like that. Again, it's going to come to more of your creativity on how you're going to be using this, so it's like more of a sandbox. You know, the PDF, again, it's just the posting of a PDF, not ready for prime time yet. I guess some of the other ones, I mean, definitely the collaboration of real-time collaboration of Excel, PowerPoint, Visio, OneDrive or OneNote, all of those types of things were really cool. And the rest of these, I'd have to, like I said before, I'd have to try each one out, and it's just a rabbit hole I haven't just traveled down yet to find out. But anything that's up here, not including these first two, these are the ones that are kind of built in when you just get a team site up and going. And then each one of these, I'd have to try them out individually, which, as I said, I could do that and then maybe get back to the group through like a blog post or a newsletter article about, hey, I tried this one, this looks really cool, or I tried this one, and no, you don't want to do that one yet.
Yeah, I think we should do that. I think that's a great idea.
Because there's just a truckload in here right now.
I know. I tried some of them, and some of them were frankly kind of gimmicky. It's kind of like,
I mean, even the GoToMeeting one, like I added this one for myself, GoToMeeting, and again, it's just like the bot. So when what can I do? I can sign in and out. I can join a meeting. I could also do that in GoToMeeting. So do I really want to join that in Teams or do that right within GoToMeeting? Again, there might be something cool in there. I just have not found it yet.
Right. But we'll start, mentioning those things in a newsletter. Marty asks, hi, Marty, can you explain the plans available and how to meet
Microsoft 365?
Yeah, well, I think Marty is talking about Teams, I believe, I assume, but Teams is included with almost with all the Office 365 accounts. Like I said, there are some, I'm sorry.
I was going to say if you're Essentials, that's probably the only one that you would have to use the online app portion of it.
Yeah.
With the other ones, would be built in. As far as the differences, let me see.
Yeah, Marty, if that wasn't exactly your question, just drop me an email and I'll answer it.
Yeah, and this is a moving target too, because Microsoft just changed from Office 365 to Microsoft 365. Yeah. And so now you have like all these different, where is it? You have Microsoft Business Basic, which used to be Essentials, and then there's Business Standard, which was Office Standard, and then there's Business Premium, which was called Business Premium. So these are pretty much the way to go. And then they have the E1 and E3 licenses that have completely changed, because now they're doing, and I don't want to scare anybody off here, but they are doing your Windows as a service with that one, with E3. So then you can do, like, you can rent your it's just, it gets into a whole huge kit and caboodle that's just a whole other webinar.
Yeah, that's a whole other webinar. How do we create a Teams meeting link and send out an invite? This is from Nicole McKenna.
So if I wanted to create a new meeting in here, so let's say in my calendar, I can do a new meeting in here, and then I could send it out to people in the group here. Or the other thing you do is, once it's integrated with Outlook, you can see here this button that shows up, New Teams Meeting. I can click here. Oh, try again later. That's the beauty of having an online discussion while I'm in it at the same time. But I would basically create a new meeting within this. Maybe it'll allow me, oh wait, maybe if I disconnect this guy, I'm only in this. That was it. I was in two different sessions at the same time. So bring this up. You can see here, join Microsoft Teams meeting. And if the other person simply clicks on this, it would open up in their Teams, and then I just send out the meetings request right within this. You also have that button right here as well. So I would just name it, who's required to show up, where it's going to be, or who's optional, when the meeting's located, and then they just click on this, kind of like GoToMeeting.
Yeah. Dan has another question. Any tips on getting people to see or respond to the chat or team notifications?
Probably the app functionality is the one where it's more in people's faces, because otherwise, you can set your notifications, and I have mine turned off, but you can set your notifications, and there's a plethora of those to go through. I mean, you can have it pop up on your screen for every single thing. You can only have it pop up if you're mentioned. You could only have it, you can have a sound, you can not have a sound. So there's a huge page to go through. And I want to say it took me like a half hour to go through all of them. Like, do I really want to be notified?
Yeah.
So go through those notifications and figure out how you want to be notified. And I'll show you what that page looks like. If I come in here and I click on my face, my lovely face, and I go into settings,
Yeah, I
and
think
in
Dan,
here, this notifications tab, all
yeah,
of these things are like, yeah, I want to have show this up in my banner, in my email, my channel mention. I only want banner, like all of these different things you can turn on and turn off. And then it's a personal preference because you can't dictate this for somebody else. So I
yeah.
think that functionality, that in your face, like, hey, Bob, I'm
Mhm.
mentioning you right now, that is probably the way you would want to
The
go.
way to go. Yeah, I feel your pain on that one too, Dan. He said often he leaves a comment, and then half an hour later he has to send an email, and 20 minutes later he'll call. So yeah, I feel that. I know what you're talking about. We've talked about, putting shock collars on certain people to get them to respond, but I don't think that's legal, so we're not going there. So Marty said, can you give them an overview between SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams? Wow, that's a really big one, Marty. Maybe we need to do a webinar about that, Kevin. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely do a whole webinar about the differences between OneDrive and SharePoint,
right.
the connections to Outlook.
Yeah.
But mainly to answer the question in short form is that OneDrive and SharePoint are repositories for different sections of Teams. And you could think about OneDrive as almost like a Dropbox or a box or something like that. This is my own personal area in Office 365. SharePoint is more project-based, it's larger. And then Teams has the way to get into both. So your chat functionality works with OneDrive, your Teams functionality, the channel functionality works with SharePoint. And that one's more project-based. But yeah, that's a whole webinar, whole kit and caboodle that I can get into in another maybe future webinar or seminar.
Yeah, Nicholas asked a similar question. How would you incorporate a company's intranet into Teams? Are there instructions for that? So we do use SharePoint as our intranet, and yes, there is a way to combine all of that. But again, I think that would be a whole separate webinar, Kevin, that you and I should probably do in a couple of weeks.
Not
Um,
only that, but it's also sometimes a whole separate entity in and of itself that Paralege, normally doesn't get into. A lot of times we're like, all right, here's your playground, go play in it. And for basic functionality like posting a shared calendar, shared files, those types of things, that's one thing. There are some clients they get into a whole huge functionality, and it's almost like web design, and I want to say Pro Properties is one where they had a whole fleshed out intranet that had a background and links, and they had today lists and or to-do lists and stuff like that. And it's a whole area that you can really get bogged down into, that it's not necessarily our main thing that we would do for a client. That our main thing is kind of get you into the initial steps. Here's your playground. If you want to get into the whys and wherefores, there's a whole section of the industry that might be good for developing an intranet site. We can help you integrate it, that type of thing. But as far as us creating that intranet site for you, maybe that's not the best thing for us. We can kind of get your feet wet.
right. Nicole wants to know if there's a way we can archive the chats.
Interesting possibility. So again, I said before where you can kind of fail it off. There is a way to back them up. So my
Right,
assumption would be that because you can back them up, you could always restore them. I guess
right.
the one thing would be that I know that they're backing up the OneDrive and SharePoint files within the backup. I don't know of a company, and maybe this is more research on my end, that would be able to back up the actual chat functionality and what
Right.
people are saying and be able to restore it. So that would be something that I could address in a future either webinar or in a newsletter article to get back to everybody about that one.
I think that's a good idea.
Yep. Well, I got a
So
lot of homework to do.
yes, you do. Um, let's see. Is it possible to have your company intranet on Teams again? That was from Dennis. Hi, Dennis. Um,
Like Romper Room. Hi,
Yeah.
Dennis. I see
From our-
Dennis. And,
And I see Grant. Um, does SurveyMonkey work well?
okay.
Gemma wants to know.
Oh, does
Um,
SurveyMonkey work well?
yeah, so it's again, I think it's just what Kevin was saying. It's just a way to sign into your SurveyMonkey from Teams. Like it's kind of everything in the same pane of glass. Um, it was kind of the same thing as Polly. So I haven't tried using SurveyMonkey in Teams. I can't tell you if it functions differently than it does from the web. Um,
Actually,
let's,
Sandra, I see a question here that I did want to talk about that I didn't earlier. And somebody was asking about a lot of feedback and echoes. So when you're in these video
yes,
calls, and this not only goes for, Teams, this goes for Zoom and GoToMeeting and anything else. There's like an etiquette portion of doing an online collaboration, video calls, this type of thing. And you can see here, I have a little earbud in my ear. Some people use earphones, but what you mainly don't want to do is have your speakers being interfacing with your microphone. So I have this microphone here that I use that's kind of a nice microphone. It's better than my built-in tinny microphone for my laptop. So my voice is coming out of here and going into the microphone, but anything Sandra's saying is going into my ear. So the feedback portion or the echoing portion happens when somebody just uses their laptop and the speakers on the laptop, the voice coming out of the speakers in the laptop is going right into the microphone, and then it just circles and circles and circles and circles. So etiquette, feedback, something like that, use something that's separate from the other things. So either get a separate microphone, get a headset, maybe with a microphone attached, or just a headset and use the microphone on your laptop. Just think about trying to separate the microphone portion, the input from the output, so that you're not getting that echoing.
yes, that's right.
Maybe one more question, we'll let everybody go.
One more question. Well, a lot of people are still here, believe it or not.
There are? Okay, I'll keep going, I don't mind.
Dan
I
said
just want to
thank
be
you.
respectful of other people's times.
I don't know why Grant said ouch. I'm not sure. Marty said thank you. Could Parallel Edge prepare a yearly abstract of Microsoft subscription pathways? Boy.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah, we would love that as well. Most of the time, we don't know what Microsoft, they give us kind of maybe a couple of days heads up when they're making changes, or sometimes they threaten to make changes and then they don't do it at all. So we don't want to be alarmist about what's coming down the pike to our clients. We kind of wait until these things are rolled out. But yeah, there have been so many changes to all the subscriptions. I haven't even dove into everything yet. The functionalities are all still there. They're just all named different now. So it's been a little bit of a learning curve there trying to.
I can say one of the things that they'll be pushing, my crystal ball says within a year. Some people are saying longer, but it's the multi-factor authentication. We have ways of heading that off at the pass right now. We just tried out a really great product called Office Protect. And if you're interested in this, definitely hit us up. But just as a quick preview, Office Protect sits on Microsoft 365 in the background and says it's almost like it enhances our capabilities and stops certain things from happening. So for instance, if somebody got my password and let's say they're in North Korea, I could say as a rule within Office Protect that says, anybody that logs into my account from outside the United States would be blocked. They can't log into it at all. Or, if anybody creates a rule that shifts my email from me to somebody outside, or, if I'm getting spam from, from a certain other country, block it automatically. So it enhances the capabilities that we have as technicians and does it for us. And it's super cheap. So if you're interested in something like this, we're really, this is a plug. A shameless plug, but we're enhancing our security capabilities because, gosh, Sandra, I mean, since the quarantine hit, we've been inundated with hacking and all kinds of other stuff. So we're trying to entertain, a lot more security platforms that are out there. We might even, enhance our platform for managed services to come out with like a managed services plus or security option or whatever it is. We haven't really defined it yet. But stay tuned to that. Definitely call us if you're interested in those types of things, because as things are changing, we're trying to change with those times and keep everybody more secure. Sorry, that was a really big tangent, but I wanted to make sure to
That's
answer
okay.
that.
I think we've answered most of the questions. Dinah said it was actually Tavis. So hi, Tavis, and
Hi,
she
Tavis.
left. Will Microsoft combine Outlook into Teams at some point? Are they planning to? Marty is asking. Good question, Marty.
That is a good question. It's tough to say, and like I said, this is one of those moving target things. Could I go into my guesses about where things are going? I mean, some industry officials, because of the E3 platform of Microsoft 365 and the capabilities of renting your operating system instead of buying your operating system, and now it's a part of Office 365, and there's so many different ways that Microsoft can kind of do the same thing in different ways. Some people were saying for a while that the actual installed programs are going away and they're only going to use the app-based programs. Marty, I'd love to be able to answer that question and find out where we're going, because even in 6 months to a year ago, the whole operating system being part of Microsoft 365 wasn't even on my radar.
Right.
We had thought that they might do a subscription-based thing, but I didn't realize it was going to be part of Office 365. You could probably quote me on that one. I want to say in one of our previous webinars, I did talk about the subscription model and how everything is going subscription now. So as far as my crystal ball is concerned, I know they're embracing cloud platforms and Azure platforms because of that subscription model, being able to spin up, and this is again in a whole different webinar, but being able to spin up a workstation in the cloud, put Microsoft 365 on that platform, take your subscription-based operating system and throw that thing on there, have them work for 6 months, maybe as an intern, and only pay for 6 months, and then take that workstation down. That capability is coming. It's expensive because you're paying for data coming in and out of Azure, and hours and processing power and all of these types of things, and even graphic processing. I mean, I want to say February, March is when they started being able to apply graphics processing to those Azure platforms so that we can use it. It's, again, you can tell from my voice where this is just going like a buckshot, and it's tough to say where this is going, and it's a daily occurrence where I'm logging in and saying, they're doing what now? So I'd love to be able to have that crystal ball for you. All I can say is that we as Parallel Ledger are trying to be as prepared as we can for the eventual, what we're seeing like 10 years down the road, and please don't quote me on this, because there might be flying cars by that point, but the eventual transition to only having a dumb piece of machinery in front of you that only logs into your Azure platform. And again, this is like flying cars and robots coming in and out of the room and stuff like that. So who knows where we're going to be in 10 years.
Yeah, agreed. Well, for those of you that are still on the webinar, there's still quite a few people here. If you have any suggestions for future webinars, feel free to email us. You can email support@paralleledge.com, or you can email me directly if you have my email address. Take any suggestions. We're always open to do webinars about whatever you guys want to talk about. I think we got all the questions answered, Kevin. Thank you for sticking around and doing that.
Absolutely. And if there's anything, I could see us doing a webinar on the OneDrive and SharePoint thing. If there's enough there that we could do a future webinar just on the second half of Teams, maybe get into some of those apps and whatnot, be more than happy to do that. I know that we were talking about doing stuff about some of the security things that we were talking about, because that's like a daily change. Holy mackerel. So yeah, absolutely. If you have any suggestions, just let us know.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we should wrap things up. We're almost at 1:30. So that was one of the longest webinars we've done in a while. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah.
All right, great. Have a great, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right. Take care.